When we saw Indiana Jones ride off into the sunset at the end of Last Crusade, many of us thought it would be the final time that we would see the whip-wielding adventurer. Rumours persisted over the next 19 years until finally Spielberg, Lucas and Ford got together and produced Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Having heard many conflicting reports as to whether this film was enjoyable or not, I made sure I caught it twice before making this review. Also, there are some spoilers here, so if you don't want to hear them, come back once you've seen the film. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull takes place in 1957. 20 years have passed since the Last Crusade. Marcus and Indy's father have both passed away, leaving Indy feeling a sense of loneliness as he looks out into his twilight years. Nothing much else has changed. He is still a bachelor, he has no real family to speak of, he still works as a lecturer at Marshall College, and he spends much of his time adventuring around the world looking for sacred artefacts as only Indiana Jones can. In this adventure, Indiana is embroiled in a race to find a sacred crystal skull that will lead him to the city of El Dorado, where unimaginable power will be given to the person who returns the skull to where it belongs. In this instalment, Indy must pit all of his wits against Soviet spies hell-bent on finding the skull and unlocking its secrets in a bid to take over the world. Along the way, he will be reunited with his one true love, find his lost son, and be crossed and double-crossed by his best friend. His adventures will lead Indy to his greatest and perhaps most far-fetched discovery to date. First off, the cast is great. Harrison Ford is fantastic as an ageing Indy, and I have to say there are moments in the film where he looks as young as he did in Crusade. All round he gets everything spot on, and really looks like he could easily do another film. Shia LaBeouf is enjoyable as Mutt Williams, and John Hurt, Ray Winston and Karen Allen all do their roles justice. I really enjoyed Cate Blanchett as Agent Spalko and think she did a fantastic job in capturing the feel of the old adventure serials on which this franchise is based. There are two things about this film that bother me, however. One was the script, and the other was the use of CG. Although I knew a bit about the crystal skulls, as I have a fascination with such things, the sacred object Indy had to find this time round just wasn't quite as compelling as the Ark, the sacred stones, or the Holy Grail. It was a great idea to base the adventure in South America as something different from the rest of the series. However, I feel Indy's search for the city of Atlantis, an idea rumoured to have been in early drafts of the script, would have captured the imagination far more than the crystal skulls. The problem I have with the script can really be summed up in two words: fridge and Tarzan. There are two scenes in the film, one in which Indy survives a nuclear blast by hiding in a fridge, and another where Mutt Williams imitates Tarzan repeatedly by swinging from vine to vine, that just didn't work for me. Indiana Jones is an adventure serial, and as such many of the events taking place are beyond belief, but for some reason it is easier to believe in the possibility of Indy surviving a fall from a plane in a life raft, or always finding that perfect place to attach his whip so he can swing across some abyss, than to believe in these two events. I would like to say that one vine would have been fine, if the character had swung just once rather than 20 times, assisted by a group of computer-generated monkeys, and then met up with the car chase. That would have been okay by me. It was just a bit over the top. As for the fridge, it just felt silly. Have Indy driving away from the blast in a car, wondering if he will make it the dramatic effect, but not catapulted like a rocket via a fridge freezer. Now, the other problem I've had with this movie is the use of CG. We were promised a film shot much like the original trilogy. I was really looking forward to this, as I'm completely fed up with CG in Hollywood. Yes, it's a great tool to create things we wouldn't be able to otherwise, but when depicting scenes that could be filmed with actors, it just doesn't look as good. So unfortunately the film suffers from elements in the script that stretch credulity and the stale lifeless use of computer generated images. So far you might be thinking, he really doesn't like this movie. Well, you're wrong, I actually loved it. I just wanted to get my major criticisms out of the way first. Outside of the silly elements and the perhaps less than interesting artifact, I think the script was pretty effective. I loved the fact that they acknowledged Indy's age, and in many ways this is what the film was about. Indy has always been the hero, but he's reaching that age when he may need a helping hand one day, and it is lovingly given by Marianne Ravenwood and Mutt Williams. It would have been a mistake to pretend that his life, outlook and physical ability had remained unchanged in 20 years. They managed to get the balance between showing Indy's age and showing that he can still kick ass just right. We get to see some great adventuring in this movie. Indiana exploring the graveyard and ancient tomb really did feel like a great addition to the series. The whole warehouse scene felt very much like it could have taken place in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the jungle sequences, despite partially ruined by some poor CG, were enjoyable scenes reminiscent of the truck chase in the first film or the minecart chase in the Temple of Doom. I very much enjoyed the 50s theme running throughout the movie, from the opening drag race minus the CG prairie dogs, the fight between the greasers and jocks, Mutt Williams' Harley, to the fantastic image of Indy looking out on a nuclear blast, signalling the arrival of the atomic age. The 50s theme runs through to the end with the controversial introduction of aliens. Although on first view it felt strange to have aliens in an Indy film, being a little bit too science fiction rather than fantasy for me. The second time I saw it, it didn't bother me, as aliens and UFOs were ingrained in American culture and cinema serials throughout the 1950s. Since this is based on those serials, it's kind of fitting. I think the film could have been better with perhaps less sidekicks, which at times muddled the film a little, and the aforementioned removal of unrealistic ideas and computer generated images. However, all in all, I really enjoyed it. Is it a classic? No, I don't think it is. I think it works very well as an adventure film, but perhaps it doesn't quite fit in with the rest of the franchise. It was always going to be hugely difficult for this movie to even come close in quality to the other films, so I'm pretty happy with what we got, as I think it's a better film than most summer blockbusters in recent years, and it could have been a lot worse. Just take a look at Spider-Man 3 and the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie for how it could have turned out. It was great watching Indy on the big screen again, and you know, I hope it's not for the last time, because I get a feeling Spielberg and Lucas were just finding their feet with this kind of filmmaking again after all these years, and the next time round we might get something really special. If not, well, I really enjoyed Crystal Skulls, but it won't be my last memory of Indy. That will always be Indiana, his father, Marcus and Salah riding off into the sunset on their last crusade.